waiting forever, and then
I bet.
you go to work for 8 hours.
I bet.
But it's not too bad.
Good. Well, I see that we are now on YouTube, so we're now streaming and
Okay.
and recording. So it would appear.
Jim, you're muted.
All right. Can you hear me now?
I can.
Like the bad commercial?
Loud
Okay.
and clear. Yeah.
I have 10 o'clock. Is everybody all set and ready to go?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. 10 o'clock, I'll call the meeting of the Finance Administration Committee, electronic meeting, October 27th, 2020. Call the meeting to order. Call to the public. Do we have anybody out there? I guess we
Well, is
don't.
anybody in the public who wants to speak?
There is no public at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move into item number 3. Consider accepting and placing on file the October 15th, 2020 routine personnel items as presented. Nothing out of the ordinary here. Tobin, what about you?
Nope. 3 new hires.
Mhm.
That's always
yeah. Yeah.
Parks and Rec, and then Commission on Aging, and one at the MRF.
Yeah, so, no, that's good. I'd like to see that the 4-year deputy, that's after 4 years, that's, we're being, I think we're very competitive there, so.
Yep.
Okay,
All right, I'll make a motion then that we consider accepting and placing on file the October 15, 2020 routine personnel items as presented.
and I will support that. I don't think we have any further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, it goes forward. Okay. Next up, consider approving a buyout of excess paid time off or PTO hours above 225 and a half for non-representative employees for calendar year 2020 only as recommended. Margaret, I'll look to you on this.
Great. So to kind of give you some basis, our personnel manual for non-represented employees has been rewritten and is at our attorney's office, awaiting kind of a final review from them before we bring it to the board. But currently, the personnel policy for, I'm sorry, my phone's ringing, that's rude. I'm sorry, I thought I had that silenced. So the policy as we currently have it is that people can carry forward into the new calendar year 225.5 hours of PTO. And anytime over that employees have accumulated, they can be paid out to a certain ceiling amount. Because of the COVID-19 situation that we have employees who have not been able to take time off because we need them here. And we have employees who, during the relative closed shutdown, you need to remember that many of our employees were working during the shutdown. They were working remotely or they were essential workers who were on site. And so we're going to have some employees that through no fault of their own will be unable to utilize the time and they're just going to lose it. And I think that, in my opinion, and this is my opinion and recommendation, and we can get into the dollar figures in a bit. In my opinion, our employees have, they've hung in with us this year. It's a difficult time for everybody and all across the world dealing with COVID-19. But I just think that this is not the time for us to stand on a policy that is an internal policy which we can adjust, given the fact that I don't think we need to have our employees lose their accumulated time because they're unable to take it due to the COVID crisis. So I would like to have us adjust the policy for this year only and allow us to pay out in cash over and above what anybody would lose. And looking at that, the issue is, well, the other thing we could do is just say we're going to carry over money. But I think by doing that, we're just adding to the problem for next year, perhaps. So if people have an excess time now that they're going to lose and we just give it to them to carry over next year, in my experience has been that when you do that, then you end up with all sorts of schedule because people have more time to use. And some of our non-represented employees are, in our critical workers. And so we just really can't be getting this scheduled to get people time off before December 31st that they have accumulated, and we've all accumulated in good faith. So I really think that, when we look at this as far as the non-reps, and that's who is coming today, if the board approves this next Tuesday, I will be prepared to contact the CBA groups and make the same offer to them. I just kind of wanted to do a test pilot with the non-reps because it's easier to get that approved. It's a decision of the Board of Commissioners, and you don't have to have 4 or 5 different groups do a TA to agree to it. Because we do believe in parity and we want to take care of all our employees, I certainly would be making the same offer to all of our CBAs. So across the board. So as far as the non-reps group, if we do this as this buyout, it's going to cost us, it kind of depends. Nicole and I talked about this last week. We talked about it again this morning. It looks like, it's going to play out that we're going to have about $7,000 maybe that it's going to cost us more than what's in our budget. We're looking at, they're about $15,000 short probably right now, but depending on what happens between now and when we pay out and what vacation people take, and some people take PTO time for those 3 days at Thanksgiving. So this is all in flux. I can't give you a definite dollar figure that tells you if we decide to pay out on the first payroll in December, this is how much it will be, because some people will be able to use PTO between now and then. And there's hunting season coming in. So people are going to be taking some PTO off between hunting season and Thanksgiving. So, if we decide to do this, the day we're going to do that payroll is the day that we will be looking at what people's accumulation are on that day. And I'm also thinking that, if we do it the first payroll in December, that's a benefit to our employees too, to have that cash for over the holidays. So that's what the recommendation is this one time only, because of the situation with COVID, that we would do this modification, I guess I will say, to that particular section of the non-rep agreement. And therefore, none of our employees would lose the time they have accumulated but have been unable to utilize.
Margaret, you all finished at that, or?
I'm finished. I'm open to questions, comments, or anything you gentlemen need.
Tobin?
Well, Margaret, you answered my big question was the CBA groups. You answered that. I guess is the 7,000 is kind of an educated guess. It's not.
Well, it's looking at, and again, it's an educated guess what it will cost us. We're looking at it that it would be about $90,000 from the general fund. However, we have increased PTO payouts in the across the board in the budget this year. So there was already an increase in that because we knew that we would have some of this, but we wouldn't be paying it out generally until January. So really, it depends on what dart you throw at what dot, and they're moving all the time. So looking at, increase that we're looking at, we put in extra in the budgets is about $25,000 spread across the general fund budgets. But when we look at the total payouts for those, that is an addition to what was already in their budget. So we're thinking, that's kind of what we're thinking at this point. We'll know the day we run the payroll, frankly. Between now and the day we run the payroll, people will accumulate per payroll, but they also will probably be, some folks will be using. So when you look at what it's going to cost us, it's hard to really pinpoint it, Tobin, to tell you a definite number today.
Sure.
We're looking at somewhere between probably 7,000 and 15,000 over and above what we have budgeted. And I can you know, in a 20-some million dollar budget, at the end of the year, when we are closing out departments, we always are shifting. We're shifting things around so that all of our departments kind of end up certainly in the black. You know, it's not to any of our advantage to have a pool of money sitting in Department A that didn't get utilized for whatever reason, but Department B went over a couple $1,000s and
Mhm.
line item. So I'm not concerned about between now and September 30th that we will have the money to do that. And the other thing we always have is that, you know, the group of our department heads and elected officials are very conscientious of their budgets. And they all like to end up with a small excess every year if they can. It just, I think, is a great testament to them. So I don't think this is that financially challenging for us. What I think it is another message to our employees in these difficult times that we are putting them at the top of our list of what we want to do. And I just feel that now, I will tell you, employees have not come to me and asked for this. I had no discussion with the CBAs about it. I did have a quick 2-minute discussion with the court administrator this morning, just to let her know that I was going to make this recommendation. And other than that, it's a recommendation totally coming from administration. I just feel it's the right thing to do.
Okay. I guess one other question, how many, you know, roughly, I don't need an exact number, but I'm curious, how many non-CBA employees do we have?
It's a very good question. Let me think about it real quick.
Yeah, that's fine. But
I saw somewhere 50
Guess
people
about
were gonna-
175.
Oh, got you. Okay.
And that's a guess. I can get you an exact figure if you'd like me to.
no, I just kind of wanted an idea.
You know, our payroll moves with the time. So sometimes we have, you know, 265 people on, and sometimes we have 300 and some, is depending with our
Mhm.
and other things. So I'm looking at, you know, the sheriff's department is primarily covered under a collective bargaining agreement. I think everybody at the sheriff's department is, except 4 of the top level people. So that's about 50 some people. You know, the courts are also a very large section of the base. Not everybody at the courts is a member of their collective bargaining agreement. So I'm going to guess that maybe there's, again, I feel like I don't hold me to this. I'm thinking there's maybe, you know, 45 people there, 40 people there, maybe, that are members of a collective bargaining group. So maybe 35. I guess it's smaller than that. I'm going to say 30 to 35.
Uh-huh.
And so now you're at 80 or so. And then you got 2,
Okay.
4, 6, 8, 10 people at central dispatch. So kind of just doing the math, I think we're close to 150 to 175 non-reps.
Okay.
But again, I would want to circle back to the CBAs and make them the same offer.
Mm-hmm. All right. That's all I have. Commissioner Horton.
Okay, thanks. Couple questions. This is more for cleanup than anything for me. With the formula, how the paid time off hours are accumulated, is it 1 hour per so many hours worked? Does it vary about length of time an employee is there? How's the formula, how a PTO hour is generated?
It's based on whether you are an exempt or a non-exempt employee under the Fair Labor Standard Act. So exempt employees accumulate at one rate per payroll, and non-exempt at another rate per payroll.
And what is that rate for non-exempt employees? Is it vary, or is it?
When I say non-exempt, I'm talking non-exempt as far as the Fair Labor Standard Act.
Mhm.
They are not eligible for overtime.
Okay,
So if you're asking how many so in the non-rep category, there's 2 levels of accumulation. One accumulation is for those folks who are salary and non-exempt under the Fair Labor Standard Act. The other level is for those who are, salary who are exempt under the Fair Labor Standard Act. So they are exempt from overtime. Then you have your hourly employees who are non-exempt in the Fair Labor Standard Act, which means they're eligible for overtime. There's other things that the Fair Labor Standard Act, but that's it in a nutshell. So it's not, that has nothing to do with who's represented and not represented.
I guess my question, maybe I'm oversimplifying it and we're not asking the right question, because what I'm asking now is to get one paid time off hour, to accumulate just one, how many hours does an employee work? 35, they have to work 35 hours, every 35 hours they get one. How does, that's kind of my basis. How is a PTO, one PTO hour generated?
So they're not generated in 1 hour increments. They're generated, and I don't have the policy with me, so I can't flip to it right now and answer your question. I can get the answer and get it back to you, but it's per payroll.
Okay.
The full-time employees, if you're a full-time employee, you know, you're working a minimum of 37, well, you're working 37 and a half hours a week. Now, it's clear that our exempt employees, who are our department heads and our professional level people and my entire staff and those folks, they are all exempt. So they are not exempt under the Fair Labor Standard Act. So they're going to be accumulating at a different rate than the non-exempt employees. So I'm just guessing, Commissioner, I don't have that in my hands, but maybe accumulating 6.5 hours of payroll period, or they might be accumulating 9. It depends on what their category is, but I can get that information to you.
That'd be, I would just like that. I guess that's my first question. Now, is the PTO, that's in addition to vacation time, or that's in lieu?
No, the PTO for the non-reps, it's paid time off and all lumped together. So there's no more vacation time. There's no more personal leave time. There's no more sick time. It's PTO. You can use it for your vacation. You can use it if you're sick. You can use it if you want to go get your teeth cleaned. You can use it for whatever you want to lose. So none of the non-represented employees have different categories of accumulation. They have one category and it's PTO.
Okay. Yeah, I again, coming from the private sector, that's not necessarily how we do it here, but that's why I was asking basic questions, because I just want to understand it. Now, does it vary as far as length of time an employee, different lengths of time? Say, does a 1-year employee get the same rate? Maybe it's tying back to my PTO question, paid time off time. Does a 1-year employee get the same amount of PTO availability as a 20-year employee does?
No, there's different category. There's different levels of the PTO accumulated based on years of service.
Okay, that was my understanding too, that kind of incentivizes someone to stick around a lot longer. And you say they can carry over up to 200, what was it, 225?
225.50.
So in other words, somebody's sitting here with 180 hours, we don't have to pay that out. That just would carry over. But anything above the other, then, okay.
Let's say, given the situation, you have somebody who has, you know, I don't know, I hate to just pick a crazy number, but we'll say 300 hours just because it's nice round numbers. So they can carry over 225 of that, 0.5. So that leaves 75 hours. Then if you read through the I'm trying to get back to the staff report and read this because I don't want to be wrong. So 225.5 hours of unused PTO time accumulated, excluding unused PTO hours forfeited. The employee shall be compensated for these hours January of the succeeding calendar year up to a maximum of 112.58 hours for non-exempt employees and 120 for exempt employees. Compensation will be based on the employee's pay rate on December 31st. Okay. So what that is saying is that if you have over, the way I'm reading this, if you are an exempt employee, you have over 345 hours, anything over that, you're going to just lose. It's being forfeited according to this policy. Now, I will say moving forward, when we come back to you, hopefully soon, with the revised policy, it's not going to read exactly like this. Our current policies are very old. They're confusing. I think they're somewhat arbitrary. And That's why we have rewritten them and they're at their final draft at the attorney's offices. I don't think they've been rewritten in 10, 15, 20 years, and they're not real clear. But in this case, if we were to policy exactly the way the policy is written, a number of our employees would be just forfeiting time because they can't take it during this situation.
Mhm. No,
It would be
don't-
one thing if I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I don't have a problem adjusting and taking care of the employees. I just need to get a grasp of how everything is not garnered. That's not the term. I'm
I will
looking
get
for.
that
How
out to
they're-
you and Tobin today.
how it's because I'm not, again, this isn't how it's normally done in the small business world, but I do understand government and I do understand some entities work paid time off, and it does make sense. We've actually started to look at that ourselves. So that's why I'm kind of trying to grasp a good handle on it, because to see where it shakes out. Let's see.
Get you that
I
information.
think you answered the question.
today.
Okay.
I'll
I
send
think you did
all
answer the
an
question.
email. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I think you answered. Oh, it's hard to talk. I know it's when you're not in a room. It's like, when do you start? When do you stop? And you know me, if I got cups of coffee, I hardly ever stop. So you do have to jump in, Margaret. So feel free. But yeah, again, to be fair, Tobin, you brought up a good point. Everybody has to be involved. See the collective bargaining units. My concern would be, the memo or the background, like a little wordy for me, but that's okay. I can understand it. Yeah, you have to, my concern is that it's a one-time thing, and not a one-time thing, but because of the unique circumstances of this, there's reasons why you want people to take time off. Sometimes it's a good thing for people to get time off. Again, if in the 7,000, that's everything, that's payroll, taxes, that's everything. That's just not wages. That's extra. That's everything lumped in together. Or the 15,000, that's just not wages. That's payroll, taxes, and all the other expenses that'll occur by giving more wages.
Well, yep, let me confirm that for you. That might be just wages. That's a figure that I asked for this morning, was given to me. I didn't ask that particular question. So I wouldn't want to be held to a particular answer. I will look into that for you.
Okay.
I also
Go
want
ahead.
to be upfront and tell you that the numbers we're talking about today could change one way or the other, depending on what happens between now and the payout. I think that we're looking at a limited amount of money to do this. I will tell you, on the back page of the staff report, under other considerations, it's one sentence that says, in the interest of the county's tradition of practicing parity among employee groups, equivalent offers should be made to the bargaining units. That would be made. If you approve this, I will be making that to the bargaining units. And then the recommendations to consider approving the buyout of excess PTO hours above 225.5 hours for non-represented employees for calendar year 2020 only. So it's clear it's a one-time thing.
Okay. The collective bargaining units. Now, my other employer, there's 8 collective bargaining units, and then there's a large non-represented unit. But we all accrue about the same amount of time off, and we can all save and carry over the same amount of time. Is that the case here, or are the collective bargaining units have kind of a different? I see you shaking your head no.
Many of the collective bargaining units are not on a PTO system. They still have sick leave. They still have sick leave, vacation leave, personal leave. One of them we have transitioned over since I got here, but as you know, Tobin, that transition takes a long time, and it's been a sticking point in negotiations for a couple of those units, and it just. Both of the, some of those units have very, very long-term employees in them. And so it's been an issue of negotiations and discussions, and it just hasn't, that ball has not moved forward. And I don't think for a couple of those that it would move forward probably ever. So we kind of, I already say at negotiations, I would like to kind of get this all on board, and we try. But in the end, it hasn't happened for some of those larger units. And most of our collective bargaining agreements, except for the courts, which I am not involved in, the other 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are up on December 31st this year. So we are entering negotiations now.
Okay. Just to be clear, I wasn't trying to advocate for PTO.
No, I
or
know.
their system, but I was just kind of wondering, if we have the other groups, how many hours can they carry over? But I guess they're all different.
Most of them are different.
Okay.
That will be a calculation when I come back and make a recommendation to the board, that we'll have that calculated out per each one of those units. Because we will have to, if they want to agree to this, have a TA for them anyway. So it'll all be broken out in their agreements.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Margaret, I have another question. I just thought
Yes,
of,
sir.
again, I'm being real basic on this today, so, because I'm trying to grasp the concept of it. So my questions, I guess, are conceptually no more than specific. But what, in a normal non-COVID year, what is the amount of loss? Is it fairly common for employees to lose hours? I mean, it's someone who doesn't get PTO time. I would think that I would never want to give up an hour of PTO time if I didn't have to. It doesn't make, you go out and accumulate all these hours and you have all this possible thing and then you just don't use it. And it's like, well, that's not doing me a bit of good. I know you can donate it. I think there's policies you can donate, do some stuff like that. If I recall seeing some stuff over the years where employees have donated PTO time for someone that's ill or something like that. But is it common for people not to use their PTO time? Uncommon, or is there numbers? Is there a number you can put on it every year or not?
No, I can have, we can go back and get those numbers for you. I would say that, is it common? I guess it would depend on what we would all agree that the definition of common would be. I would say there's some here or there. I wouldn't say it's a majority. I wouldn't say it's,
Okay.
tons of people, but it happens. Somebody thinks they're going to take off, the Christmas holiday, and then their coworker gets sick, so that employee comes in and works. Well, then they don't get a chance to take those off. And sometimes, we can say, okay, well, if you're an exempt according to the Fair Labor Standard Act, we could do, we could look at doing a flex thing, so you could use those at a different time. But then you get to the end of the year, and I like to be flexible. I like to, when people have earned their time, I'd like them to be able to have the benefit of that time and try to be flexible. This policy is a problem in that. It's a problem. I'll just say that. This policy is a problem, and this section of the policy. And it kind of goes back to, and I'll say this in a public meeting, our personnel policies seem to, some of that is punitive, I think, which shouldn't be punitive. It appears to be punitive. I don't know what it was intended to be, but I think as an employee, I would take it that way maybe if I was looking at it. Others of them, to me, read more like a collective bargaining unit than what should be for a non-represented part of the organization that are employees at will. And it kind of swirls around different things. And so I'm happy that we have rewritten it. I'm happy that it's going to hopefully get back to the Board of Commissioners soon for your consideration, but that's going to be one of those things that you're going to want to look at for a meeting or two before we take it for a vote, because it's going to change tremendously. It's kind of like the classification compensation study, which the last one was done in 1996. So when you have one in 1996 and then you have one that we instituted in 2020 and 2019, then obviously you have vast differences because the employment world has changed dramatically. And I think it's the same thing for these policies moving forward. Our world has changed tremendously. But would you like me to find out how many people lose time every year? Or
I'm just, like I said, I'm trying to grasp the concept of paid time off. And I guess that would be one of my questions. Here's the things I like to see. Again, if we put it in front of the full board, is that what is our hit to the budget as best guess as we can do? And including all net dollars, not just wages, but all net dollars. I think that's very important. And again, it's no one's fault COVID-19 hit. I mean, it's certainly no one's fault, and you don't want to penalize anybody in regards to this. Certainly, we can't have a rush of pay time off in the next month and a half.
That's my fear.
Two-
That is
two-
my big
2
fear.
months. Because as the last time we had our board meeting, I was actually in the building, and I won't say who the elect walking down the hall wearing gloves after this person's office had an incident. And I'm going, wow, that, all of a sudden you got 2 or 3 employees gone out of an office. You have to, in today's, it's a different era right now, not an era. That's the whole era, length of time, but you're doing things outside the normal box. You're getting creative. You have to sit there and look at this. And, it's good that you're recognizing that, hey, somebody could, like you said, somebody may want to take 20 hours of PTO time. Well, that's great. But somebody in an office goes and, everyone works, we think of everybody as a family. This is helping your family out, If we can do it here, I'm not opposed to it. Like, my biggest concern, as you probably would guess, would be, I want to see what dollar amount hits, because, and I know we talked about it, but the exact financial impact is unknown at this time. When we discuss it, we're going to find out, if we can find out as ASAP, what the financial thing is. But again, it makes sense. But I'm not used to the concept of PTO. And that's just me having to learn it. I understand it, but it's not in my world as far as in the business, from my side of the business. But I do understand it. And I've had discussions with my business manager today. Actually, I sat down and talked to him a little bit about this, and what good and bad can come with this. And, what from our standpoint, from our small business, maybe that's something we look at doing. It kind of protects us if employees, we've offered benefits and they're not working enough to maintain those benefits, versus sometimes you have employees who work a lot more and gain extra PTO time for doing so. So again, I know I'm rambling now. That's what happens. So.
So
I don't have
Commissioner,
Go
I
ahead.
think you made a great point about, if we have people who are off due to COVID, the employees who had scheduled time off won't be able to use it. And to give you an idea, and you're getting all the emails that I'm sending out to all the employees.
I was trying to dance around that, but yes.
I know, but but we have that's a situation, and it's how we are responding again to our family, as you pointed out, which I really appreciate when you refer to the employee base, because we are a family. We spend, as you folks all do, we spend most of our time with our coworkers, and we have a number of situations right now where, we are operating under because other people are out due to health reasons. And that's going to markedly change what's going to happen between now and the end of the year for people's ability to use time, and for employer representatives, as far as department heads and elected officials, to approve those requests. And as we move forward, we all want people to have what they're going to need during the holidays, as far as, they want to be home, their kids are home, and that type of stuff. But we're in a different world right now. I just don't want our employees at the end of the year to be losing this time that they don't have much of an option to use. So I'm happy to provide any information to you folks. And I know we're going to look at the hit to the budget. I'll get you something about the accumulation, how that happens according to the years of service, and whether somebody is exempt or non-exempt under the Fair Labor Standard Act from overtime. So I will get that information out to both of you so that you have a little bit more information. I'll get you information so you have more information. I'll get
Yeah,
that to you.
I guess I wrote down this word as you were talking, or words. I'm going to term it fairness. Looking at this, is this fair?
Yes.
And would it be unfair if, like you had mentioned, someone came, someone wanted to take some time off in December, and all of a sudden said, well, now we have a shortage, you can't, and they end up losing those hours. That's unfair.
Yes.
So this kind of, I think, maintains this balance of fairness in an unfair world right now. So again, just get the numbers, let's,
Sure.
so I can get a little better understanding. Tobin, I don't know where you're at on this. You obviously have much more understanding in the PTO world and the collective bargaining world than I could ever. You've forgotten more than I'm ever going to know. So, but I don't see much of an issue with this. It's in the issue of fairness. That's how I'm looking at it. I just want to understand it more and get more detailed numbers as far as what impact is going to be on the budget. Otherwise, I don't really see much of an issue with it. So,
Yeah, I don't want to see anybody lose time. I know this year's been a strange year, and with some people out of a particular office, other people aren't able to take time off. But I guess if we're going to look at numbers, are we talking, because if we go down this road with the non-represented employees, we're going to go down the same road with the bargaining unit employees, probably. So an educated guess for all of that might be helpful, because like I say, if we go down one road, we're going down the next one. So
I was assuming that was going to be presented that way, that
Okay.
everything would, I shouldn't say it like that. I would have assumed that we'd get a presentation like that would show the total hit for being fairness to everyone. And breaking it out, like you said, breaking it out for the non-represented and the represented as a breakout, if you can. Maybe we can't, but if we can, just to see it, and that way I can, even someone like myself can understand it. So, yeah, that's how like I said, it's all about fairness. We're not trying to penalize anybody, but yet at the same time, we're maintaining our fiscal responsibility too. So Tobin,
I'm sorry.
motion.
We're
I'll make,
making a lot of work for you.
what was
But
that?
I was going to say to Margaret, we're making a lot of work for you.
That's okay. I feel pretty strongly about moving, I feel very strongly about making this recommendation. So I'm happy to provide whatever information you would like to consider the recommendation. So I'm happy to do that. It's not a lot of work. I have this supercharged rock star staff on the other side of the wall here, and one of the people who's in the room with me, Jessica over here. And I'll talk to Emma today, our payroll and benefits administrator, and Nicole, our deputy administrator, and we'll get those numbers and those figures together. And it's not a burden. It's
Okay.
what
I
we,
appreciate that.
it's
I
what we
appreciate that. And I
And-
think for the other commissioners, they'll be hearing this for the first time at the board meeting, and maybe they'll be able to have a clearer picture of
Sure.
the entire cost. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm happy to provide whatever information you gentlemen would like that would make you feel comfortable and feel like you're making an informed decision. So it's not a problem at all. I'm happy to do that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So yes, you could also include, besides the financial impact, if you could just give as best you can, and I'm going to use the term formula, but don't hold me to the word formula, how a PTO hour is generated. And
I have that on my list. I have on my list that you want to know how their accumulation, years of service
right.
and total,
Under,
the
yeah.
total whatever, and that it's broken out so that you know between exempt and non-exempt, because they accrued at different rates. We'll put it all together for you. Not a problem.
Yeah. And you also, getting back to the issue of fairness, if you look at the 2 months that we're involved in coming up, November and December, those are the hottest months for people. Not the hottest months, obviously. Summer is also very important for time off, but there's an old saying, nothing between the holidays, pay time off. So yeah, this is fair. I think this is in the issue of fairness. So Tobin, I'll make a motion to consider a buyout of excess pay time off PTORs above 225.50 for non-representative employees for calendar year 2020 only, as recommended.
I'll support that.
Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? It will go forward to the board with those questions or whatever if we can get those. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, invoice list discussion.
Yeah,
Tobin, I'll start with you. Anything? Go ahead.
I didn't see anything too out of the ordinary. I didn't see anything that I didn't understand what it was for, so.
My question on October 23rd, on the cover sheet, and maybe I'm just overthinking this, and I probably am, in regards to the treasurer and mortgage foreclosure dollar amounts of 38 and 25. Now, I'm probably overthinking this. That's not reflective of the new court standard where paying back the difference in what's and not keeping the difference between what's sold and what's owed. Is that reflective of that, or is that a totally different amount, those $2 amounts? Because 38 and 25 seem like large numbers if I'm reading on a mortgage foreclosure, but again, I don't, or maybe they've already had a prior agreement with it to pay that back. I don't know. So.
I don't want to speak on behalf of the treasurer. I'm happy.
No, I don't either. Yeah. Yeah. So
I'll
sorry.
ask him that question and have him get back with you.
Yeah, that'd be interesting just to see what that mortgage foreclosure, if that's what that means, or I'm not overthinking it, but misinterpreting that. That's something we've seen all along. And you just said, okay, that's the treasurer's paying. I'm just curious what that language means and that dollar amount means with that. So, told me that you brought something up a while back, and when I was looking over this, it kicked in again about the amount of dollars we spend on consumers or our electric. I'm looking at some of these figures. It's like, holy moly! I mean, I don't know, but we.
So if I could address that real quickly, may I address that real quickly?
Yeah.
So,
Sure.
We've been talking off and on about those. So a couple of things I would want to say. If you look at jail and you look at this building, I think they're the two of the largest and certainly two of the oldest buildings we have. And I'll just speak for this building, and I'm not an engineer and I'm not the director of facilities, and that's not my background. But I will tell you, these are single pane windows. I don't think there's much insulation. We have old lighting, all sorts of issues, and certainly with the jail, as we all know. So we know that we're making a plan with the jail. As far as this building and some of our other buildings, we've talked about some options and how to try to be energy efficient. Originally we had looked at the feasibility study for the facilities, came back, and this building was structurally this building being the county building, was structurally very sound, but it was recommended that basically you take it out down to the outside and redo the inside. And obviously we're not going to be doing that anytime soon. So it's interesting this conversation would come up today, because yesterday Nicole and I had a conversation about there'd been some discussion with our new facilities director about switching out the lights in this building to LEDs, and that would save us a tremendous amount of money. So we had kind of talked about the suggestion, the recommendation kind of came in about, well, let's just get a contractor in here to switch out the lights and do that. However, I really believe that we need to have an energy audit of this building done. And the energy audit is going to include more things than lights. But if we contract out the lights section without having the energy audit done, then it seems to me we're just kind of dealing with part of the problem. And also in my experience of working with the type of companies do these types of energy audits, and then you can use that for grant applications and other things, is that if we were to contract out just the lights now, then that's not going to make the other part of the energy audit that attractive. So I think we're going to put together an RFP, request for proposal of an energy audit for this building. And then that will get us a better idea of exactly what we want to do, how we can do it, what type of money, what the return on that investment will be. And I will give you an example as a county administrator in another county. In the first year or so of President Obama's in the White House, there was a large energy grant availability to municipalities and public agencies or whatever. And that county, which is similar in size, at least as far as population or whatever, to this county, we applied for an application for that. And one of the energy companies, I'll use that term for lack of a better term, that's their lingo and their stuff. And they were the company we had who was working with us on all of our systems in our buildings. And they wrote the grant for us. And we received $1 million grant in that county. And then the county decided they wanted to do more than that. So we bonded a few $100,000. And we had a courthouse that was considered the new courthouse, which was built in 1972. It's all relative what's new, isn't it? It would remind you of this building in that not much installation, single pane windows, all sorts of terrible lighting, all sorts of other issues. And in that building, we replaced all the windows. The construction company we hired built in from the windows. So they came in and made the rooms like 6 inches smaller on all the way around or whatever, and put the installation on the inside and then drywalled because the building was brick and it was much more expensive to try to do it on the outside. You know, they replaced the lightings like in rooms like the commissioner's chambers, that when you walk in the room, the lights go on. When you leave the room, the lights go off. It was a tremendous return on investment. And I was the administrator there when we did that. So I'm very interested in us having an energy audit done of this building. And then move on from there so that we can come back and make, I think, informed decisions and recommendations. Do that, we want to do a request for proposals, and that's something that's not going to happen between now and the end of the year. It's just not going to happen. But it is on our plate. Nicole and I talked about that yesterday, and I don't know that she's had a chance to talk to our facilities director about that or not. She's at the other end of the hall, so I can't see her eyes as I'm having this discussion. They're probably this big. But you know, we're already kind of have that in the works for us.
Okay. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I've talked about doing an energy audit before, but we don't want to rush into it with the wrong company. We want to make sure we got the right company, and we're looking at everything in its totality, the entire building. I mean, you have to look at the HVAC system. Air exchange rates are becoming more and more of a thing.
Yes.
And with airborne viruses, people are more interested in what your air exchange rate is. And with fixed windows, it becomes more of an issue. So, I mean, within a comprehensive audit, then they're looking at all of that stuff rather than, like you say, just the lights or, you know, replacing the light bulbs. Or
Right.
We need to look at all of it.
I agree. It's a bigger project.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else on it, Tobin? I have nothing else. That's the only thing.
Nope.
Okay. Moving down to call of the public. Nicole, anybody out there?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman, there is no public at this time.
Tobin, have anything to add?
I do not, sir.
Mark and I have nothing to add except I sent you an email in regards to that matter. I emailed the
Great.
person's
Thank
name. If you could follow back up with me on that, let me know what the results are. I told the person that contacted me that I'd get back to him. So
Great.
if you could follow, if you could
I
follow,
certainly will.
let me know kind of what's goes on with that. I appreciate that. That being said, I will adjourn the meeting at 10:48. So
Thank
thank you,
you.
everyone. Have a
Yep.
Good day.
Yeah. Bye. Stay safe.
You too.
You too.
Thank you.